reading files with graphical user interface, the there is a swing component called as JFileChooser that supports the directory navigation and file selection. And how? Let's see that through a program over here. So here in this example, we are going to create a graphical user interface like this, which will allow the user to select a file with a JFileChooser component and then prints the file contents as Unicode characters. So let me go to some place in my desktop where I have a text, say Java node. So here the text content is displayed in the form of Unicode characters. In order to achieve this, let's start the program. First, let's begin with the components that we're going to create inside the application over here. So scroll pane, output area where you want to append the Unicode character contents of a file. Then the selected file label, this one, output file label, the output label, and then selected file field. Then there is a file chooser content for enabling the user to select a file. Now then next, J button, the open file button. So let's see all those things, components. So first, in the default constructor, we want the grid pack constraints for the layout. Then output level, selected file level, file field, output area, scroll pen, all of them are being initialized and created in the to be created in the frame. They are not being added. So to add them, what we first need a file chooser object. This statement file chooser equals to new file chooser function. So here what happens usually within the file read frames constructor, it creates a JFile chooser object. So by default, the file chooser initially displays the files within the user's default directory. The identity of the default directory depends upon the operating system, your OS, in which the program executes. And the programmer can also optionally specify a um, different initial directory for providing a directory path or the path of a file argument. Then next we have here we are setting up the layout, and by using the grid bag layout constructor, and through this set of statements, as you see, we are going to start our layout of all the contents inside it, like the selected file label, file contents, output area, then open file button, then the text field, all those components. Let me show you. Yeah, so here we need to add one action listener to initiate an event while we click on or press on the open file button. To do that, we have to call the add listener function, which will override the method action performed. Mm, Here the graphical user interface program, it does not typically add a file chooser component to a top level container. That's a frame. So instead what happens, the program creates a separate dialog window. So here in the program, what happens, by pressing on the open file button, it invokes the action perform method, and that creates a separate dialog window. When I click on this, it creates another one separate window, as you see, containing the JFile chooser component. So to do that, we need to create one file chooser the one variable which will open the file chooser dialog and get the file to open when the open file button is pressed. So this is the statement for that, for the new dialog box that opens after clicking on the open file button. Next, here there is one option, approve. So what happens with this, So we need to be sure whether the file that we want to open that is clicked or not. So to do that, this open the file chooser val is to be compared with the file chooser approve option. So what is this approve option? This is a constant. The approve option is a constant, as you see, and here this is a field within the J file chooser class, which indicates that the user selected a file and pressed the open button. So similarly, there is one cancel option also, which indicates the user canceled the operation by pressing on the cancel button. And there is another one option, error option, which however indicates the occurrence of an unanticipated error. So if a user selects a file like this and assigning the return file reference to the variable read file using the statement read file equals to file chooser dot get selected file. So the file which is selected is the reference which is assigned to the read file variable over here. So if the user selects a file like I am showing you here in here, so if it selects the file, then the reference to the file's corresponding object, which contains the reference of the challenge activity.docs object variable. So that is assigned to the variable read file here by calling the get selected file method. So now read file has a pointer or reference of the challenge activity docs. Now using that reference, we can apply certain operations in the read file. So to do that, here to get the name of the file, we can do like this. Of the selected file field class, we can call the set text method, and then read file dot get name will add the name of the file. Okay, so that name of the file can be used further ahead. So next, if the read file can read, that means if the file is readable, then the action perform method here, it creates a file input stream, as you see through this statement. It creates one file input stream and a corresponding scanner object in the next statement uh, will be created, that the name is infs over here. So the file can be read, and if there is a certain point of time where the file cannot be read, so it will display the error cannot read a file over here. So the statements that create the file stream and read the file are enclosed in the try catch block throughout, and it will detect and handle any exceptions or errors encountered while creating the file input stream. So this is actually will be discussed in the exceptional handling or file input output chapter thoroughly. So just for now, we need to know that the file byte stream, it creates the file input stream, and the INFS is a scanner object which is created to read the file properly. And then first we need the output area to be set to empty. So to do that, we have the set text function, and to read the file content, the file that you choose to read the content, we need the infs scanner object. So it uses the has next function, and it enables to read the entire file that we have selected, and that will be added to the output area using the append function. So if there is one exception or error such that while reading the content of the file that we selected, it will display this message over here in case of any input output error that the Java program here it will find. And yeah, that's all for the file IO with graphical user interface.